Hello, everyone. Hi, and welcome to our. What number we on, Jamir? You're in charge of knowing where we're at with this.
Week 35. Let's just go with
Okay.
that.
Yeah. hmm
Week
I
35.
feel like we've been doing this for like 6 months. It's just so much support, so much love, so many different topics, so many different inputs. It feels like we've been doing this forever. But welcome to our Teen Takeover. I'm one of your hosts. I'm Kalia, and this.
I'm Jamir, as you can see.
Yes. And we are the Virtual Village 2020 influencers for Clever Communities in Action. And Jamir, what exactly is Clever Communities in Action?
Well, I'm glad you asked. As you can see, Clever Communities in Action and the Virtual Village 2020 by these nice shirts. We're a nonprofit organization based in Norfolk, Virginia, with our executive director, Miss Star Armstrong, and we're based on literacy, culturally affirming literature at that, and giving back to our communities in a myriad of ways, which the virtual village is one of them, where we typically have a reader or readers, emphasis on readers, yeah,
Readers,
people who
plural.
come on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and they read an African American based children's book for Black kids, and that's how we connect. And we have people all the way in Alabama, all the way up to Flint, Michigan, all the way out here. So I'm pretty sure we global at this point, if
At
not,
this point.
interstellar, intergalactic. But that's just me. It's just me. But that's just what CCIA does, and we are the Virtual Village 2020 influencers, and we gotta come
They're
up a
going to
little
start
bit.
right there.
That's Miss Star. And what we do is we come in every Wednesday at 7 to 8, and we just speak a little bit in a panel style forum about certain issues and topics that I believe need a youthful eye to it, but it also just needs more eyes as well. So that's what we're doing right now.
The best definition I've heard thus far. So, as he said, in about 3 or so minutes, we're going to start giving you that panel style youthful input that you all so yearn for. But before we get into all of that, first we have uh, an announcement slash surprise kind of mixed in together. So I have to break down the bad news. I'm sorry I have to be the bearer of bad news, but next week, August 5th, is going to be our last teen takeover of the season. Everybody get the side violins. Go ahead, get the tissues because it's going to be our last teen takeover of the season. You know, August, colleges are revving back up, and we have 3 new college freshmen as influencers. The school year is about to rev back up, and we have the remaining 3 going into their senior, junior, all these high school years. And so, as we prepare for that, we will have to stop the show for the season. So, next Wednesday will be our last show. But with that, we want to make sure that we leave out with a bang. We want to make sure that we do something that is just so innovative, just so above thinking. Like you guys couldn't even have thought of a better leave out than I don't even think y'all could have thought of a leave out like this. So usually on our teen takeovers, we have already pre-formulated questions and we bring them to you guys, and those questions usually have sub questions that arise in the comments, and we try to answer them as best as we can, but most of the time we don't have enough time to answer them. So, for our next show, Virtual Village, we are leaning on you guys. We need you to create our content for our next show. Next show is going to be questions only from the Virtual Village. No questions from us. No questions already sent to us from Miss Star, but questions strictly from the Virtual Village. So, anything that you've been wanting to ask us throughout these like 10 shows, maybe 9, something like that. Throughout these shows that we've been doing, any questions that you have wanted to ask us, we will be happy to answer. If you would like to drop any questions that you have now that you would like us to answer on next show, make sure you drop it in the comments and hashtag next show so that me or one of my lovely influencers can have them typed up and written down so we can answer them on the next show. So, with that, as Jaimir so cleverly explained, Clever Communities in Action is a organization founded upon literature, and what better way to start our teen takeover than with a news article piece that will be read by one of our most articulate and talented influencers. Let me bring her up. Miss Unpredictable herself, Ayana. Ayana,
Hello.
how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I am good. I am good. So we're going to go ahead and kick ourselves off and let you go ahead and spit some facts to the virtual village before we get started.
Okay.
All right.
So yesterday we were doing our teen takeover run through. So we always like to find literary pieces that kind of express what we're going to be talking out throughout the show. So the one that Kalia, I give her credit for finding this one, is from the Washington Post, and it reads, "My social media timelines of late have been filled with outrage over the police killings of an unarmed Black citizens. But after a violent 4th of July weekend around the nation that left several children dead, I noticed an uptick in snarky posts asking, 'What about Black on Black crime? Why aren't you protesting about that?'" So I really think that I give you props for this one, Kalia, because that actually leads into our first question. So I'll let our lovely host back on.
Thank you for the props. Thank you for the props. Had to go find something in the clutch real quick. Hold on. Let's get to it. I will be checking in here and there. Out bike riding. Salute. All right. He's always checking in and doing something else. But thank you for tuning in. So professional. So proud of y'all. Thank you. Miss Unpredictable. Yes, Miss Star. A lot of them kept their names from the last show. So Miss Unpredictable is back and better than ever. With that, I will bring up our other influencers. And here we go. Hold on, hold on. There we go.
There it is.
So Trinity unfortunately could not join us because she's feeling a little under the weather today, but we do have our legendary Professor Q and our also talented Paul Casso. So how are you guys doing this evening?
I am doing excellent. How are you guys doing? How's everyone doing?
I am doing great,
You know,
Paul.
I'm feeling phenomenal.
You feel
It's
phenomenal.
kind of wrong.
Astronomical, amazing, delicious.
Phenomenal, astronomical. Did some
I'm glad you.
workouts, working on my abdominal.
Yeah, that was nice.
Okay,
Hey, yo, we
spitting
about to
bars.
start freestyling.
Bars. We spitting bars, we spitting bars. Okay, okay, okay. I love it. So, with that, we'll get into our first question for tonight. And tonight's topic is derailing the rebuttal. So, within the work that we've been doing recently, and for some of us for years, we have gotten a lot of opposition that we usually aren't able to address. So, tonight, we will be derailing some of the rebuttals that we have received. So, our first question to the influencers. In response to Black Lives Matter protests, many opponents bring up the point of, but what about Black on Black crime? What is your response to persons who pose this question? And with this, I will pass it over to the lovely Ayana.
How did I know you were going to do that, Kalia? So I would say the question, what about Black on Black crime, is just, I think, to me, just another ignorant question used to divert and distract people's attention away from the matter at hand, where our people's lives are being taken by the hands of those. Designed to serve and protect us. And so I think skin color really shouldn't be a factor in who is protected versus who is killed by the hands of the police. And that is our primary focus at the moment. And when I was doing research yesterday, I ran across an article that said Black people aren't uniquely predisposed to commit crimes against each other. Crime is often racially segregated based on a number of factors, including including that most people commit crimes against people they either know or live near, which makes complete sense. And so a lot of Black people live in either Black neighborhoods where they're surrounded by their own race, and so vice versa with white crime. And so another factor that also contributes to crime is poverty. And we all know that we have higher proportions of Black people living in poverty versus white people. So for anyone to try and throw a separate matter out into a conversation is a response similar to that of all lives matter, not just Black lives. So it's just another rebuttal similar to those ignorant remarks. So I would just say educate yourself before you try to speak on a topic. And so, with that, I'll pass it on to Paul Casso.
Dang, I mean, you be dropping back bombs, and it's like really exploding. Like the blast is really expanding right now. So, when people say so, like, what about black on black crime? Like Ayana said, they're using that as like a cover to divert the audience's eyes away from the problem first at hand, and about the police brutality and the police killing our kind, and having them just being blinded. When they say that, there is basically like, where what is the point in saying that if there's just crime in general? Nobody else talks about any other crime. They just say, what about black on black crime? All I hear is, what about black on black crime? There is white on white crime, but nobody talks about that. They consider it normal, I guess, because they don't talk about white on white crime that much. They will usually point out black on black crime. And so I would just say, basically, um, dang, there's been a lot that I just said, so it's kind of hard to conclude that one. Dang, I would just basically say, wow, I really like stumped myself there. Educate yourself, like Ayana said, and just research, and then pay attention to what is really going on in the world instead of focusing on the main group and try to make them as the problem. Yeah, and instead of making them as their problem, focus on the main constructive problem that is destroying the community in general. That's it. That's where it is. That's exactly what I want to say.
I got you. Oh, snap. Q's here. Welcome back, Q. Ooh.
Cool.
We're going to get you right after that one. Now we got to go out a little bit out of order, but when people respond with like, what about black on black crime, or they'll talk about the idea that black people are killing each other a lot in Chicago or another urban city, or they'll talk about how the movement involves like the destruction of property and how that they're destroying their own neighborhoods. It's a disingenuous argument because these people don't actually care about any progress, because like Ayana said, that we all know that crime is linked to socioeconomic status and that it's typically done in proximity. So if I'm lacking something in life and you are next to me, there's going to be friction, which leads to me going out and having to do something that's considered criminal so I can get what's mine, which is something that I need to survive as a human being. So when people say, what about black on black crime? That's pretty much their gotcha moment. And they don't really want to talk about the fact that, well, if we didn't spend millions of dollars on the police, maybe we could pour into these neighborhoods and give these people, I don't know, a grocery store, or give them social services that can actually help them get out of poverty. Because, like Ayana said, just to go off a little bit, a lot of black people tend to live in, around poverty. So, and I was reading a little bit earlier because, like influencers, we do research. Ayana set the bar high, so that's it. Thank you. And it said that at around 30% of black people live in neighborhoods with at least 30% poverty. So that means at least 30% of the households in that neighborhood experience poverty, and that was around 30% of black people. So generally, a majority of black people live in neighborhoods that have between 10% and 30% of poverty, whereas a majority of white people, and when I mean a majority, like 75% of them live in neighborhoods that have less than 10% of poverty. So when it comes to, so being black is sort of synonymous with having higher levels of poverty, which is no fault of our own, but more so the fault of years of systemic oppression. And it's basically a trap here where we've been placed in neighborhoods that lack, and then we've also been taken things have been taken away from us, and then crime is sort of encouraged, and that's how we can get, and then that's how they trap us in a sense. And then no one wants to address the causes of it. They just look at the symptoms, which is why they say, well, if black people did this, then they wouldn't kill each other so much. And it's not that. It's the fact that if we didn't have to be in situations that stress the neighborhood, then these stressors wouldn't lead to negative encounters. and I'll kick that to Q because I know he got a word for us. You gonna catch it? Did he freeze?
Is Q frozen?
He froze? Really?
The Q's frozen. I think that's what just happened.
I just thought he was
Yes.
just staring daggers. I thought he was
Me
really about
too.
to
I
come
was like,
through.
you not gonna catch it? I was like, dang, Q just don't like us no more. But I think Q is frozen. So we're gonna let Q handle his technical
Oh,
difficulty.
there it is.
And I'll just take it from
I
here.
mean, I got you now.
All right.
Hey.
Caught it. So I totally agree with what the rest of the influencers have said. I believe, and as my co-host Q, I know would have brought up and highlighted. Hold on, I think he's trying to reconnect. So before I speak on his point, let me make sure he good.
Is he back?
Yeah, let me see.
Is he back?
Q, we got you. We got
Hello?
Q.
Yes, sir.
All right, Q. We're gonna let you out the floor.
All right. So, first of all, I would like to say that I don't believe in the term black on black crime. Facts. Have you guys ever seen like Chris Tucker stand up? I'm pissed off, man. That's exactly how I feel right now. But let me go ahead and get into it. So I don't believe in the term black on black crime. Actually, let me take this banner off because it's Q takeover time. So so I don't believe in the term black on black crime. It was a term made up during the war on crime, and when you hear war on, it pretty much means a war on blacks. War on drugs was a war on blacks. War on crime is a war on blacks. And so it was created to make a negative image of black people, because when you look at the statistics and look at the numbers, like Ayana said, you commit more crimes against people who's in your proximity. So black people live around black people, then we're going to commit crimes around black people. So, and white people commit more crimes against white people. So like I said, they only created this term to make I like that. Thank you, whoever made that. So so they only made this term to make negative the image of the black person, make us look like aggressors, and make us look portray us as bad people. And then so they use this term, oh well, blacks kill other black people, as an excuse for cops killing black people. But it's very petty. It doesn't make any sense. So you're saying that, so pretty much at the end of the day, you're still okaying the murder of black people, and it makes no sense, and I don't like it. It's a horrible rebuttal. And with that, I'm more this way, toss it up to Kalia.
Yes, so like I said, I agree with the rest of our influencers, and like Q brought up, black people committing crimes against black people is a real thing, but black on black crime is just a term that steers the narrative that black people are more predisposed to crimes than any other race, and that tries to paint black people as more dangerous. And also it tries to paint black people as, oh, if they do not care about their own lives, well, what do you think they're going to care about you and your family and things of that nature, trying to paint the picture that we don't care about ourselves enough not to commit crimes against each other. So the narrative of black on black crime, to me, as it paints the picture that we don't care about each other, I feel like it just negates the work that people who do and have been trying to fix the broken people that we didn't break ourselves, that we're broken under the systemic oppression of America as a construct. It negates the work that Miss Starr and Mr. Rodney does to uplift our community. It negates the work that Trinity and her father does to lift up the community. It negates the work that me and my mother does to lift up the community. It negates the work that Ayana does as she composed the documentary to uplift black people. It negates the work that Jameer does as he creates valuable articulations to inform us about our history. It negates the work that Paul does as a black creator, as a black artist, as he lifts up black voices through illustrations. It negates the powerful work that Q is doing while researching our history to teach our children of the future who we are and what we do. So it's a lot of black people who care about other black people, who are fixing the broken people, who were raised by broken people, who were broken by a system that we were oppressed under. So black on black crime isn't really a thing, and community crime is a thing, and it happens within black communities. And also, black on black crime, or in community crime in general, has nothing to do with crimes against black people committed by police officers. People who are sworn in to uphold the law shouldn't be held at the same standard as this petty criminal is. So to compare black on black crime or in community crime to police brutality and the corruption within the police force is just no comparison. There's no similarity to our fight for justice in the justice system and how we fight for our lives each and every day and how we protest for our lives each and every day. So that argument is really blissfully ignorant of people to say because there really is no comparison. And with that, I'll pass it over to my other host so that he can bring in the next question.
Got it. So Kalia ended on that high note right there. And to segue next, in response to the Black Lives Matter protests, many opponents bring up, but more white people are killed by the police each year. What would your response be to people who pose this question? And I'll pass it to Q before he phases out. He was scaring me. Because he got real still. He was like, it was Paul.
And Q, because Q going too. All right. So Ayana, you have the floor. Is Q coming back?
Oh, okay.
Q's gone.
Yep, he's frozen. Oh, well, Paul's back. So do I still have the floor or is it given to Paul?
It's just...
I have to handle something real quick. They're being like really loud. Hold on.
Yeah, Ayana, you got the floor. It appears that we've broken the internet several times.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. So I was just doing a lot of research this morning, actually. And so I was reading another article breaking down the rates, because whenever people say, oh, well, white people are killed by the police, more white people than black people, according to the Washington Post analysis updated on Monday, nearly half of the people killed by police are white, while 23% are black. But Black Americans, who account for only 13% of the population, I'll say it again, 13% of the population are shot at a disproportionate rate compared with white Americans, who make up 60% of the population. And so I was reading an article where Trump actually said, oh, well, what about white people? White people are killed by police. Actually, more white people. Oh, I'm by myself. Yeah, and so he said more white people. And so that was a article by Al Jazeera. So I just thought that was crazy. You know, another rebuttal used to deflect away from the matter at hand, shifting the focus from black people to white people again. And so I just think that's an invalid statement for people to make, especially if you don't do the research behind it and know the disproportionate rates that actually makes up the white population and the black population, then I don't think you should say anything. And so with that, I'll pass it on to Q before he phases out again, if he's not already. He looks like a statue.
I think he is.
You hear Q? No, I don't think we got Q. Miss Star says, I feel the Q. Somebody has to be the Teddy.
Wow, that's crazy. That's that nerve right there. I don't even... Oh, Teddy Riley, yep. I was trying to think of it. I was like, is it Babyface or Teddy Riley? Who's the one that kept messing up? But yeah, so to go off what Ayana said, there's more white people in the world, in America, than there are black people. The number is like 76% white people to 13% black people. Am I frozen? So I'm sorry. My bad. So 76% of white people in America to the 13% of black people. So when you look at that,
we just gonna assume that he gonna come back eventually, but we know Q got something to say.
We gonna slide it over.
We gonna stay with Paul.
Yeah.
May I get the question again? Because I was out. I was out real quick.
Yes.
We got you. So the question is that what do you say to people who bring up the fact that white people are killed more by the police than black people as a rebuttal?
Well, when they say that, I would go straight to what I've been seeing. I've been seeing nothing but white people have. I've been seeing nothing but videos of white people abusing the police. While if a black person tried the exact same thing, they would get shot. I've seen white people fighting back to the police, and then they'll put them in handcuffs, walk away with handcuffs without like bruises or scratches or anything like that. And then I would see black people. I think I've seen it on Instagram where there was like a comparison between the two. It was like white people on one side, and then there was black people. The white people were not even like touched really, and the black people had bruises, they had scars and everything. So what I'm really saying is I haven't been seeing that many white people get killed by the police as of black people. And yeah, that's basically it. So
That, bro, I'm glad you said that because I got something like that. That segues perfectly into what I got going on. Q is back in the studio, and I'm afraid, not gonna lie, because
Okay, he's moving in the background, so we're gonna bring him up.
okay, Q, go ahead, go, bro. You got it. Go home.
So 76% of white people in America to the 13% of black people. There is 2 times more white people that get killed by the cops. So that's half the amount of black people. But if you proportionalize the numbers, so there's 5 times as many white people in America. So if you proportionalize the numbers, if I did my calculations correctly, there's a higher percentage chance that black people will get killed by the cops more than white people. So you can't just listen to the numbers, because I remember there's a whole uproar on Instagram saying, "Oh, white people get killed more by the cops. White people get killed more by the cops," but they just let the numbers lie to them. You got to really look into the numbers. You can't just look at the surface of it. You got to dig deep into it to get the full information. And with that, who didn't go? I'm gonna just throw it up to Kalia just to be safe.
I'm gonna go ahead and let you get it, Jamir. Go ahead, take that.
Good connect, good relay, good job, team. Bam. Look at that. We gotta time those high fives better because that was a little janky. But like what Paul said, um, you never see any videos of white people being murdered by the police. And this is going to be twofold. One, when white people use that as an argument, or anyone who tries to deflect or decenter black people in their struggles and say, well, this happens as well, it should more so be evident that there's a problem in the system that needs to be addressed, because it's like they want to play oppression Olympics about who gets murdered by state officers and servants. Like, it just doesn't make sense if there was a pandemic and waiters were poisoning like black people, and then other groups were like, well, the chef is killing us as well. Doesn't really make sense, because the restaurant is a toxic environment for the patrons, and we should fix that, not sort of be like, we should just be comfortable with the fact that people are being murdered. And to build off of what Paul said, we never see any videos, not never or hardly or rarely see any videos of white people being murdered by the police, because to me, it is not acceptable to the dominant white society. Whereas it's totally fine for a black body to be shown mutilated and just bludgeoned and dead. It's okay to show a lifeless black person, but it's not okay to show a lifeless white person, because society doesn't view black people as human. They see us as some sort of spectacle, and it's like lynching, because it's a spectacle to see a black life being taken, and it's engaging. It's like something they need to see. A lot of people, this is why a lot of white people and other types of people, they like to raise awareness by posting black bodies and black people dying everywhere, because it's something that they just need to show, because to them it's really interesting, but to black people it's really disheartening. And that's all our history is just centuries of black bodies being put on display and being murdered. Whereas if you show like a white body being killed or a white person being murdered, it's not acceptable, because that's seen as too sensitive, because society and the media, they view a white person higher than they view a black person. So that's why you don't really see that many white people be murdered by the state. And I think Q froze again. Oh, okay. Oh, he's still here. Okay, you was just real still. You had me scared. I didn't think he was gonna be ready for the next question. And so just to go off of like when people say, well, someone else, such and such X other group gets killed as well, it should be like, yeah, that's a problem, not okay, well, we're going to be quiet, because no one should be acceptable and fine with like state sanctioned murder. It's not something that a privileged or a good society strives toward. And with that, I'll pass it to Kalia.
Okay, so like always, I completely agree with what everybody else was saying. And like everybody brought up, there are a lot of numbers that could go into this. And so that you guys don't have to do the math, I'm going to do the math for you guys. So make sure you get out your pens and papers so that when anybody says, but white people are killed more often than black people, you can have a rebuttal. So in America alone, there are 328.2 million people across this great nation. White people make up 76.3%, meaning there are approximately 250,416,600 white people in America right now, as we speak. In contrast, like Ayana and Q brought up, there's only 13.4% of this country that is black, which means there are 43,978,800 black people. So you already see differences. 250 million white people, 43 million black people. All right, so if we take the number of white people and divide it by the number of black people, we get roughly 5, which means there are 5 times as many white people than there are black people. So to every one Kalia, every one Jamir, every one Paul, Q, Ayana, and Trinity, there is 5 white people to one of us. Okay. Last year alone, 370 white people were killed by police. So if you divide 370 by 5, we get 74. So if everything was proportional, everything was equal, and black people were getting killed at the same rate as white people were, there should only be 74 black people that died last year to police brutality. However, 235 black people died to police brutality, which isn't that big of a number. Even though the number of white people is way bigger than the number of black people, the amount of white people killed by police is not as far of a difference as the number of black people killed. So if we do 235 divided by 74, we get 3.1-ish. So black people are 3 times more likely to be killed by the police than white people. At the end of the day, black people are 3 times more likely to get killed by the police. So with that breakdown, there really isn't any validity to the fact that more white people are killed than black people, because even though white people lap us in numbers and population across the nation, our number of people killed by the police and the number of white people killed by the police, even though they are different, they're not as different. And we are more likely to not survive a police encounter than a white person is. So with that, I'll bring in this last question. So, last question for this topic. In response to Black Lives Matter protests, many opponents bring up, if he or she would have complied, that wouldn't have happened. What is your response to this narrative, and how do you guys correct this narrative? And with this, I'll be like Ayana, I'll be unpredictable. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop this down to Q. You have life in Q?
I think we're good. We're good. All right. So if they won't comply, I think it doesn't matter. If we comply, if we do what they want, what they ask us to do, it doesn't matter, because they see our skin as a threat. There is a guy in Virginia, I don't know exactly where, but he was recording, and he was saying to the phone on video that I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. And then the police officer literally went into his car, and then he snatched, first, before he snatched him out, he looked at the camera. He said, "You're going to love this show." Snatched him out the car and then started beating him. And that's crazy. And the dude was compliant to what the officer. He wasn't doing anything wrong. So it doesn't matter if we're complying. It doesn't matter if we're not compliant. It just, our skin is a threat. It doesn't matter what skin tone you are. If you are black, your skin is viewed as a threat. So it's different, because I think Kalia just said it. It's like we are more likely to die from a police encounter than a white person. With the Charleston church shooting situation, the dude was mass murdered a whole bunch of black people, got left the scene alive, then taken to Burger King. If a black person would have done that, he would have got shot on sight. no questions asked. It's crazy. So I mean, if you have our skin color, it doesn't matter if you comply or not. It's another sorry rebuttal, and like the other two rebuttals that we talked about. And so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and pass it on to Paul.
All right, so like Q said, I saw the exact same video. He literally looked at the camera and said, "Get ready for his show." And so when they talk about what if he should have complied or something like that, it's basically it comes down to they're automatically aggressive because due to the color of our skin, and they see us as a threat, as Q said. And so when they say they should have complied, is basically just saying it wouldn't have happened if they weren't like, wait a minute, let me come back to that. Hold up. Yo, why does this always happen?
To our
To
new
me,
viewers,
Paul, I got
sometimes the excellence in Paul's brilliant brain up here just gets so warped. So when we have a freeze moment, you just have to massage your brain to give Paul the energy and the clarity that he needs. So go ahead, Paul.
Yeah. So I'm basically saying that it doesn't matter, like you said, it really doesn't matter. They're automatically aggressive towards us due to the color of our skin. And I also saw a video where it said the white one was pulled over, and it was like on the dash of the policeman's car. He walked up to the car. The lady said, "Don't shoot," and he said, "Don't worry, we only kill black people." And when I saw that, I automatically I got off of the phone. I really got off the phone, and I couldn't like look at Instagram for a couple minutes because he really said that, and it had me shook. And it's showing that it doesn't matter. They will automatically go straight to the gun or try to assault us in any way possible. And so we are basically a threat to them. There's no reason to be aggressive. Like the man in the video where he was like, "I'm not doing anything, sir." He was complying. He was doing everything that he can to not get in trouble. But the policeman was so ignorant, and he was so afraid that he might have done something when he knows goodness well that he wasn't going to do anything about it. He literally tried to seem like the high and mighty person and tried to like stomp on this man. And he looked at the camera and said, "Get ready for a show." It shows that they're automatically aggressive towards black people. And with that, I will go up to Jaimir.
yes, sir, Paul. It's gonna be hard following up after Paul. It always is, man.
I really said a lot, and it kind of hurt my neck.
Oh man. So when it comes to like the logic or the argument where people say, well, they should have complied or they should have done this differently, it's it's basically victim blaming in the sense, and it's essentially what it is, and it's also a rationalization for like the state violence that we allow in America, because a lot of people have this idea that not all police officers are bad, and that they instinctively think that police officers are the good guys or they're the heroes in the story. And with any story, you need a protagonist and an antagonist, and 9 times out of 10 black people are going to be the antagonists in a lot of narratives. So it's the rationalization that, okay, the reason why this public servant used violence that led to murder is rationalized because the black person who was killed, who can't speak for themselves anymore because they're dead, they should have done something differently. No one ever says, well, if the police officer just took a few breaths, or instead of reaching for their gun, they could have just went back to their car, or instead of not pulling out their gun and shooting someone in the back of the neck, in the back, they could have simply just given up chase because they were going to find them eventually. Or instead of getting off of their neck, they should have just done something differently. And it's just the idea that the person who is murdered has to do something differently to avoid being murdered instead of the murderer, because it's a rationalization that black people are inherently criminal and that there needs to be order that is maintained. So instead of challenging the order by calling out the fact that these police officers and these white vigilantes are actually going out there and just wantonly murdering black people, the blame is put on black people to do something differently so they can avoid being murdered. And that just doesn't make sense if you look at it logically, because you can do everything right, and all it takes is just someone's ego to get inflated and they feel like you challenge them, whether it be a simple question that you have as an American citizen. That's enough to justify your murder, because in America, there is no such thing as black people as being innocent until proven guilty. Your skin is not only a sign of guilt, but it's also a death sentence. And with that, I'll pass it to Khalil.
I definitely agree. I definitely agree. So when they say that black people should have complied, if he or she should have would have complied, then this wouldn't have happened. It's like they're completely negating all of the black people and all of the videos that have been posted and shared numerous, like thousands of millions of times across the globe, where black people have complied, did everything that they were asked to do, and still been body slammed to the ground, been dragged across the pavement, been shot and killed without any explanation. If you know your rights, like Sandra Bland, you're slammed into the ground and you mysteriously die in prison. If you sell loose cigarettes on the side of the street corner, which isn't illegal, you get choke held until you pass out. If you're playing music too loud, you get shot. If you're walking home with an Arizona tea and some Skittles and you ask a random stranger why they're following you, you get shot. If you have an open carry permit and you're reaching for the ID that the police tell you to get for them so that you can identify yourself, you're shot in the car in front of your wife and child, like Philando Castile. If you're playing with a BB gun, you get shot like Tamir Rice. If you are wielding a knife outside and you're walking on the opposite side of the street, after you've been followed up blocks by another police officer, if you're walking up the street and they call you for backup and you don't comply, you get shot 16 times like Laquan McDonald. It's nothing really that we can do as black people that isn't a threat to police officers. The way that the black community has a natural distrust and fear for police officers because of the history that we've had with police officers who were at first overseers but now they're police officers, it's the same fear that they have for us. The only difference is that police officers are trained to de-escalate. They are trained for tough situations. The situations that we run from, they signed up to run to, and yet they are so afraid of us, armed or unarmed, that we are sentenced to death immediately when the police are called on us. So if he or she would have complied, that would have done nothing, because like in the case of Sean Reed, you can run from them and still get shot, and they'll make jokes about it. But so like in the case of Sean Reed, when he was shot on Facebook Live, the police looked down at him and said, "That's going to be a closed casket," like it was funny. So our deaths are a spectacle to not only the police system, but to American society. And the desensitization of our deaths just makes the problem more traumatic for us and more of a spectacle for the country. And with that, I'll pass it over to Ayana.
Our skin color just in itself seems like a threat to everyone, whether it's a white Karen, what they call these days, so white Karen, or a police officer. And so the fact that we have to moderate all of our movements when we get pulled over, like, oh, sir, I'm putting my hands on the wheel. Okay, so I understand that part where, the police officer doesn't know if you have a gun or not. But the fact that you want to pull people out of their cars and tell them to get on the ground and just use extra force that isn't needed when they are even complying and telling you what they're doing, and they're trying to ask a question. Oh, well, why am I getting pulled out of my car? Wait, why do you want me to get out of my car? Oh, it's just a broken tail light. Then why do we have to go through the extra steps? So I just feel like, Kalia, like when you said they're trained to de-escalate, some of the police officers that pull people over, all they do is escalate the situation from, oh, well, I'm pulling you over for a broken tail light. So, just I'll write you a ticket or do whatever you need to do to get it fixed and then leave. But no, they want to pull people out of their cars and use unnecessary force, which then escalates the situation even more, causing questions to be asked and then force to be applied that wasn't even necessary. So $20 bill, George Floyd was murdered because of a $20 bill. So just overall, I just feel like complying or not, our skin color will always be a threat. So yeah, so with that, I'll pass it back to our lovely host.
Yes, and with that, we have one more question that we would like you guys that we would like to answer for you guys before we end the show. So, influencers, which question would you like to answer last? We have the topic of the N word, we have the topic of the angry Black woman stigma, and we have the topic of intelligent Black people being forced into PWIs and Ivy League institutes. So, which one would you guys like to answer last?
But before we get into that, like we already told you guys off rip, Clever Communities in Action is a literacy-based organization. And right now we're at 45 minutes, so we're a little bit behind our usual intermission time, but we stay close to what we started with. And I just enjoy reading because I know y'all enjoy me reading too. So while everyone else gets to deliberate a little bit about what question they want to go over, I'm going to continue the Clever Communities mission and get into some of the literature.
So I'm
So,
gonna kick everybody off so we can give Jameer, he's the lead of the show. We're gonna give him his space.
why are you still here? There we go. There we go. I love Q though. I love Q. I love Q, man. Q been having it rough, man. But right now, this is The Man Not by Dr. Tommy J. Curry. And I'm just going to be reading a paragraph from it. And I say that this book is very insightful. And so it comes from pages 184 to 185. And it sort of starts here with these ethics, the ethics that result from this vitiated morality, are not arbiters of oppression at all. There is an implicit appeal to a hierarchy of being that is both empirical and universal. All man is superior to non man. Hence, the ethics emerge as the product of the overrepresentation of Western man thinking itself, projecting itself into the future. These ethics, theorized away from the maternal peculiarity of anti blackness, not within its corporeal limits, uphold only an overdetermined virtue of whiteness. They hold within them no actual delineation between good and bad, only a puritanical call to turn its attention toward the othered that is created. This attention, however, relies on the perceptions and caricatures of black torment that appeal to the whites' self-assuring imaging of themselves, so that even when confronted with racism and their role as whites thinking about black people incarcerated within a racist society and dying, these whites can claim that their conceptualization of racism itself or intersectionality, next to other injustices such as poverty, sexism, and homophobia, makes them, whites, virtuous. It is the process of the appeal to getting whites to recognize racist oppression that allows Black death to continue unabated, since it is in the exact moment that whites are forced to engage racist problems in America, such as the anti-Black violence of American society, that animates a version of the justice system, the police state, the white citizenry, and the practice of American democracy itself, where the deaths of Black people, criminals, deviants, thugs, remains normal and justified by whites. The whites, thinking about racism, get to impose on Black reality a racist moral maxim, namely, that racism is not the death or the end of an ethical calculus or a moral evaluation itself, but ultimately a call for all moral and liberal people in America to condemn racism as a practice. This call is not paramount, however. It is weighed next to the other democratic values that preserve this great white society: security, safety, individuality, property, profit, and freedom. That is, the very values that have justified the doom of Black bodies when concretized in the white supremacist republic known as America. At best, these appeals encourage reformism. So basically, what the book Man Not is really about, a lot of jargon. But the reason why I wanted to come into this is the fact that when we talk about racism in America, it's mostly not what we as Black people want to get done and not what the dominant society wants to change. It's more so how they can feel comfortable with it, which is why I really like the near the ending, which says this call is not paramount, because to them, they don't really care whether or not Black people aren't killed by the police anymore, or whether we're pulled up from the projects that they've placed us in, or taken out of the prisons that they've excised many of our brothers and sisters from. Because if they need Black people to fill the certain role of the deviant, the criminal, the thug, then that's what they'll place us in. Furthermore, going into it, it says the security, safety, individuality, property, profit, and freedom. They would rather place us below property and profit, which is why we see a lot of people say, well, they shouldn't be burning that Target, or why are they burning down that police precinct, or why are they burning down those neighborhoods or those businesses? They don't care that a black life was lost. They simply care about their security and safety in America. And America is built on the bodies, blood, and souls of black people. Basically, what this is saying is that when it comes to addressing racism and talking directly to white people, which is why they hit us with all these different sort of counter arguments and things like that, is just not, it's not the idea that they seriously want to change what society is going on. They simply want to feel like they've done enough to push back against it, which is just, oh, well, I talked to a black person about it, so I feel like I'm not racist. And this is where they have this idea that as long as they aren't actively contributing to the death and dying of black people, i.e., they aren't pulling the trigger, then they feel better about themselves simply because they felt comfortable enough to talk to you about your death and dying. They have no idea or imagination of a world where you aren't dying, where you aren't killed, where you aren't incarcerated, where you aren't placed into situations of peculiarity and otherness, of being placed in a situation where blackness is seen as immoral and dangerous. They don't have any idea or conception of an America like that. They simply want to be able to live in America comfortably. And if you push back, at that, and we do push back at that, because the black existence is for our liberation and our freedom and our respect as human beings. And when we push back against this, it causes that uncomfortability. And instead of being completely free, which is why talks of abolishing the police and reforming the police have become watered down and mitigated into, a little bit of representation here and there in various media outlets, it just really gets watered down, which is the reformists that he talks about. Because these people, these so-called allies, they don't really want to change anything. They just want to keep the 4 or 5 black friends they think they have. They don't care about black people as a whole. And this is that reformist nature. Because if something is inherently evil, which America is, because it sustains itself on black people and their blood, you can't reform that. You can't make the system not want to survive off of black bodies. But that's what they'll try to do. That's what they'll try to push on us. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And I'm sure the rest of the crew has finally figured out how we're going to end off the night. But thank you guys for letting me read this excerpt. This is probably one of my favorite books. I really enjoyed this one. I could talk about it for hours, but I'm not going to carry them like I usually do. I'm going to let them get in a little bit.
Anyways, so he said hopefully we deliberated, like he didn't just take us to the end of the show. So what we're gonna do is go ahead and pull some of these comments, and yeah, because there's a lot of comments that's been going on and I haven't been able to read any of them. All right. So because they hate the color of our skin, because they hate how great we are, it doesn't matter if we comply or not. They hate us, and phrases like black on black crime justify them killing us. Yes. That was Q's dad.
He gets that knowledge from me.
I bet. I bet. I see. But so, we're going to support the youth. Thank you, you guys. I've seen a lot of new faces in these comments. So thank you guys for sharing and bringing new people to our team takeover. Wow, our skin is a sign of guilty. Shaking my head. Real talk, Jamir. Yeah, he brought up a good point with that one. Police officers and white vigilantes, your skin is a sign of guilt and consequently a death sentence. Jamir just getting quoted left and right. The fact that our youth can run down these murders from memory is disheartening. They are strong, though. The future is bright with them leading. Thank you. We are trying our best, trying to overcome. Let's see. Acceptance of everyone at school is called inclusion. Many of these officers harbor a personal, generational, deep hatred in which inclusion of the people they are supposed to serve is non-existent. That was a great point, and I like that point of view. And clothing has absolutely nothing to do with our deaths. In many pictures of lynchings, our people were wearing suits, dresses, shoes, and trying to get home before dark. Definitely. I don't celebrate Halloween, but if I did, I'm going as Jamir. Jamir, you got a whole fan out here, G.
All you gotta do is just get one of the Clever Community shirts, which is on the site, and that's the whole outfit right there.
That's the whole outfit. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you get some glasses, because when Jamir about to spit, he put the glasses on. So
it depends on how I'm feeling that day. But
You gotta get some Jameer energy. Thank you to all the villagers who tuned in and shared. Thank you. Good talk tonight.
but
And
make sure you guys remember that I know I cut you off a little bit, but remember that next show we're trying to get back to you guys. So
Mhm.
if you have any questions or comments or things that you wanted to ask us or you feel that needs to be addressed, let us know in the comments tonight. And go to the Clever Communities in Action Facebook page and leave some comments for the next show as well. Just so we giving y'all 7 days to get ready for this. So
yes,
we
to
want
ask us anything you want. Anything. The floor is open. You can ask us anything you want, and we will
we've been
answer it
doing
to
this
the best
for
of our
several
ability.
months.
Yes, you can ask us
Several
about
months.
our pre-shows, what goes on behind the scenes, because we have several stories.
Or you could ask about what books you think that needs to be read or what we're reading. I'm just saying, literacy-based organization,
Yes.
books, maybe they go together.
Yes, maybe, just maybe, you could ask us what it was like to work with Clever Communities in Action with Mr. and Mr. Rodney, in case you will eventually become a part of our virtual village and cop one of these amazing shirts. If you want to ask us where we get our amazing drip from, because we always dripped out every show, feel free to ask us that. If you want to ask us how we feel about our college journey, anything, make sure that you drop those questions down here tonight or throughout the week on our Facebook page, and we will make sure we write those down and we can answer those for you guys. So with
And
that,
who's gonna tell them about it?
I'll let you tell them about it. Go ahead.
Natural.
Go ahead, tell them.
I'm just like a superstar on a max contract right
At
now,
this
man.
point.
Like, I'm not saying I'm the Michael Jordan of the team, but
Anyway,
I wouldn't be mad if somebody made that comparison.
okay. Anyways,
But when it comes down to it,
what we're saying
The
is
door.
that since we love you guys so much, and since we're so appreciative of all the support that you give us, what better way to show our love, to show our compassion, to show our support than giving y'all a very, very personal, can't share this with nobody else. This is a huge secret. Y'all are getting the password, a very, very personal invite to the after party that we're having after our last show. We are having a party, and all of y'all are invited. This is a very secret invite, very, very secret. So y'all cannot tell nobody else. If they want to be a part of it, they have to join the literacy game. It's just like
Don't
that's
tell
mandated.
nobody.
So make sure that you guys tune into our show. Don't tell nobody. Like Paul said, Paul will come out and he will personally handle you if you tell somebody and they're not a part of the literacy game. And y'all don't want smoke with Paul. Y'all do not want smoke with Paul. So make
Nah.
sure you guys tune into our very last show, because you guys will personal invite to our after party where we get to celebrate and really have a whole meet the influencers type of deal. So with that, does Michael Jordan, the elite, the illustrious Jameer, have anything to say before we sign off? You got to move the thing to make sure y'all hear.
The door, man.
via Zoom, that's where our after party. It's been amazing working with you guys for the past couple months. Like, hands down, best co-workers of all time. Thank you, Miss Starr. Thank you, Mr. Rodney. Thank you, Miss Abyss. Just everybody who I've been working with over the last few months. Because quarantine has left a lot of open space, and now that things are like picking back up happily with college going on, I'm really appreciated that like I had something to keep me occupied, and not just occupied in the sense that I was doing something, but I was doing something meaningful. So I would say thank you to the virtual village for pouring so much into me, and I just hope that I could pour an ounce of what you did.
Yes. So with that, I would like to extend a huge thank you to the virtual village. I'm a very introverted person, so for me to connect with 6 people I have never met before and make some everlasting friendships was something new, was something very intriguing, and something that I will forever remember. So I would love to thank Mr. Starr and Mr. Rodney for this opportunity, and also to the village for accepting us with open arms. Y'all got 6 random teenagers, and instead of doing what most adults do and condemning us and making us feel small, you guys opened us and lifted us up. And so we very much appreciate the villagers, and like Paul is doing, we embrace you guys as well. And with that, does any of our other virtual village 2020 sisters have anything to say? Paul? No?
Thank you, Miss Star. Thank you, Mr. Rodney, for accepting giving me the opportunity to come up here and meet these six. I mean, what? Six? Five. Including myself. So six. I met myself yesterday. So meeting these six wonderful, beautiful people and creating an everlasting friendship with these people. I hope to see them soon at some point of this summer. If I could, I don't know. We could set it up. But yeah, I want to see everyone. And I'm glad that I met every single one of you. I'm glad that y'all got to see the goofy side of me. Took me a while, but I'm glad y'all did. So yeah.
Yes.
Thank you all for being very open and letting me express myself. And yeah.
All right. So with that, we thank you guys for tuning in. We thank you guys for joining us. And with that, we bid you all good night. Make sure that you comment questions for the next show. And peace out.